YogiTriathlete just launched a brand new website. We have unrolled Squad. Squad is a virtual group coaching community like no other in the endurance sports space. We've got years of amazing content in there. Yoga for athletes, mobility classes, race course recons. We've got training plans from ultra marathons to Ironman, everything in between. We have a group coaching call every month. We have live streams, live classes, so much stuff in there, and a great community of people who are awake and ready. You will never have to train alone again with this virtual community. 7-day free trial. Get over there right now. Sign up for it. We'll see you in Squad. Namaste.
A lot of goal setting and manifestation is like being calm. Then suddenly we notice, okay, that's the right thing for me, and it comes to me, rather than you're looking and searching and wondering what you should be doing. And, like social media is a gratification hit. It's the opposite of dopamine. It's the opposite of purpose and mindfulness, but it is really powerful. Like when you really do have some sense of true north and you're calm, the solutions will come to you, the right things to add. I mean, I work with Taylor Nibb quite a bit, and we don't look outside. We don't care what anyone else is doing. She really doesn't, because if you really focus on your purpose, then suddenly if you need something, it'll show up in your life. So we're not saying we're not growing or evolving or being complacent, but it's you magnificently focus on what you're doing, and then you start to see, oh, well, we need to add that. And the thing shows up. It's just amazing how serendipitous that starts to work. And then you start to get the serendipity, and you start to say, oh, the right thing shows up at the right time.
Welcome back to the Yogi Triathlete podcast, where we celebrate those living a life without limits. Today, we're honored to welcome back a guest whose work is a true testament to the art of movement and the power of self-expression, Lawrence van Lingen. Lawrence's philosophy, movement as a creative act of self-expression, captures the essence of his approach to helping others connect with their bodies and their potential. As a movement specialist and visionary, Lawrence inspires athletes and individuals alike to embrace movement as a journey, an art form, and a pathway to personal growth. This is Lawrence's third time on the show, and his ability to blend science with soul has made each conversation deeply impactful. Today, we're diving into his latest insights on movement, creativity, and the profound ways we can tap into our authentic selves through how we move through the world. So walk with us, maybe backwards, as we explore the wisdom and inspiration of our friend Lawrence. Let's get started. Welcome to the show, Lawrence. It's so good to have you here. Actually, we're here with you in your hotel room.
In Laguna Beach. Thank you so much. It's a privilege and an honor, and I'm really, really pumped and excited. And you guys just get it on so many levels, so it's really nice to have conversations with you. Thank you.
We love having you, and our audience loves to have you on the podcast. And things have changed since you first popped onto your first podcast, I think, which was with us years ago. And there's so many directions we can take this. And I know you're jazzed about so many things. If you guys don't follow Lawrence on social media, he's blowing up. But what is it? Maybe pull upon one thing that you're super pumped about, like right in this moment. I have a list of things that you are really passionate about. But can you pinpoint one thing that you really would like to set the tone with our audience, like what you believe in or what you are trying to do with this gift that you have of movement?
I think given the time of the year, it's kind of appropriate. I'm fortunate enough to work with some people who are really starting to understand and get to grips with their body, and it's in a very impactful and powerful way. And also, I'm very happy about kind of the online teaching we've got. We've got this sort of holy trinity, as it were. I never really thought I'd talk about a protocol, but as a protocol, if you look at it that way, it's really, really powerful. And so now I tell people, if you do these three things, your life is going to change. It's almost like, like the red pill, like people are becoming self-aware through movement or having awakenings, or almost like this, you start to put so much creativity into their movement, or you activate the parasympathetic nervous system on a deeper level than most people are used to. And so it's very common that people have this sort of aha moment where some people have become self-aware, and like if they've never had an internal voice, they've suddenly realized they have an internal voice, or they suddenly realize how negative their internal dialogue is, or they become very aware of self-limiting beliefs. So what I'm really pumped about and focusing at the moment, given it's the start of a new season, is goal setting and manifestation, because with great power comes great responsibility. So I think where we're going with this is trying to create healthy goals that you can really get after, because you don't want to have a not such an amazing goal and then you really put your weight behind it. That doesn't often work out like you think it's going to work out. So at the moment, like almost trying to create it like a North Star vision so that you can really get after it, because most people are finding the work that we're doing very impactful, very the change is almost inevitable. And what we want to do is then really just get after it and go for it confidently. And the better the goal setting, basically we need goal setting to be as awesome as the movement itself.
I think that manifestation is a word, obviously, we've heard for so long. And when I first was introduced to it, it was, get a bunch of magazines and put your vision board up and then, whatever, go be hell on wheels for the rest of the day. Yeah. And I think for me, manifestation, it just felt very ungrounded.
Yes.
Until I realized it's setting the goal or having the dream or having the vision, feeding that through focus and concentration, which are two spectacular mind skills that I think we can all develop. And that the steps that we take have to be actionable to the goal.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think something that BJ says all the time, and I'm wondering if you see this as well, is just I think people give up way too early.
Oh yeah.
Way too soon.
Yeah, totally. And so let's say hopefully someone's listening to this that's not into woo, right? They don't want to know the woo. The interesting thing is these timeless truths are starting to neuroscience and neurochemistry and neurobiology is now starting to catch up with timeless truths. So this is not woo, this is how it is. And for someone that's not, and initially I didn't like the word manifestation because it comes with you can be a little vague, or it's a bit like, it's a bit, I'm kind of a practical person. I like to get involved in things that move the needle, right? But the problem is, so most people, let's just dumb it right down. If you're an athlete and you're not doing visualization, okay, you're leaving so much on the table. You're never going to swim your best unless you're doing visualization or bike or run or whatever it is that you do, right? So we understand, okay, well, that's not woo. That's really important to do visualization. Okay, well, some people aren't visual, they're tactile. So now you've got to do movementalization because you're not a visual person. And some people are about rhythm and timing because they're artists or they're musicians. So what is that? Okay, so we need another word. You can't just say visualization because it doesn't include some people. Some people are so tactile. I was talking to an athlete that talked about like touching the finish line tape is the thing that distills it out. That's not a visualization. That's a feeling. That's a tactile sensation, right? So now we need a better word. And what is that word? Probably manifestation. Okay. So now we've unwooed manifestation. It's like it's a very, very powerful tool. And if you're not using it, you're doing it wrong. And like the neuroscience that backs it is really, really important. And one of the things with movement is you have to be calm in order to learn new movement. And pretty much you have to be in a playful state or in a state of curiosity or in a state where you can make mistakes because that's how you learn. You practice the guitar, you make a sour note, you realize, okay, well, that was wrong. And then you have to know what wrong is to know what right is. And you can't be hard on yourself and you have to let it go and you just have to focus on what you're doing. And in guitar practice, you have to sleep, and typically the work you do this week shows up next week. So there's, from a neuroscience point of view, to establish habits and learn new pathways, you have to have a sense of delayed gratification. That's dopamine. You have to do a hard thing and not expect an immediate result, and then it shows up later. And you have to do it with playfulness and curiosity. And there is no timeline of expectation because you have to focus on what you're doing in the moment. We go like, okay, well, that's what the mystics have been saying for millennia. Okay, oh, now it's neuroscience and it's cool. So anyway, it's not woo. So yeah, but the big thing is if you do it with too much expectation, you're not getting your work reward, your dopamine pathways right. So you have to do the work almost without a sense of expectation or time. And if you do the work, it will come to you. But that's part of what makes it effective, because you if you can go for a run and be mindful and you realize that what I'm doing today is going to show up in my fitness later, and if I move well, I'm going to be able to move well for the rest of my life, that starts to create a totally different mindset to someone that's striving, trying too hard, working too hard in their cadence, desperately wanting to improve, and then nothing happens, you get injured and you spiral out of it. So it's all the same thing, really. It's just what we want to do is think clearly and have a solid plan. And that's what I'm kind of jazzed about, is really getting people to explain this in a way that is like, oh, well, that's obvious. And I can trust this. And then you can go for it.
I think, well, I know your message is it's very repetitive. Like when I watch your lives, or I join you on the Monday Mobility or Mastery, like your message is very consistent. You may come at it a little bit from the side, but you're constantly the same message over and over again. And I think those that are accelerating or actually making change are showing up with that same consistency as well.
Yeah.
They're not jumping from one thing to the next next. And I feel like that's where we get hung up. We get into like manifestation. We're like, okay, so I want to win a race. And then you just let go. And then you don't really take action steps to let it happen. Yeah. You're bouncing all over.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to ask you, like, how, and I already know the answer, but I want to hear your perspective on consistency and stay in the course and being able to manage the expectations. So we touched upon it a little bit. We're not doing this for the fruits of our actions, the outcome. Yeah. We're doing this so that every day we can find some sense of joy and comfort in our bodies.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons I'm able to be consistent and have a consistent message is because I deeply trust what I do and I know it works. Like a deep sense of knowing, and we've seen this play out before. So if you just do these steps, you will have a result. And it's extraordinary, but a lot of people don't trust what they're doing, or you're looking outside, or you think you're not doing enough, so you're adding. So that again goes back to, if you really trust what you're doing, it's much easier to be repetitive and keep showing up and doing the work. But then you've got to have a deep sense of trust in what you're doing. And so it goes back, like, you talk about a goal of winning a race. One is that's a short or an intermediate goal, because hopefully your goal is to view your work as a craft, and you want to. People have to have a sense of purpose and service to others. Otherwise, you'll never find joy or gratitude. I'm just going to put that out there right from the start. We used to run around in small bands of 100 to 150 people. You were an integral part of that community. Your job mattered. Like if you were the water fetcher, like your job mattered. Okay, and you will only find a sense of joy and happiness if you're of service to others. So that should be your profound goal, or your purpose in life is what. Once you find how you can be of service to others, that should be the big goal. Okay, then intermediate goals on our journey, it's totally fine to want to do really well in a race. But if you want to beat Nancy because Nancy was nasty to you once, you know what I mean? Like, it's probably not the goal you want to sink your teeth into, you know what I mean? But if you're doing a race and you want to show up and you've mastered your craft and you want to be an inspiration to others, and you're doing it for a charity or cause greater than yourself, you can really put the weight of your intentions behind it. And that's kind of what we're at now, is carefully choosing or setting the stage so that you can, and building a really good foundation so that you can really sink your teeth into it. And then in terms of, here's something interesting that I think works is, and instead of, I've done both. And I think what works best for me is, instead of having a daily practice that's, most humans respond really well with routine, right? But instead of me having a powerful daily practice where every day I sort of, let's say you wake up, I big believe in resetting your breath when you wake up in the morning, because our breath can run away with us at night. Okay, so reset your breath, and I kind of ground myself, think about what it is that you want to do and show up that day, just a little bit of mindfulness. And I often used to do breath work or breathing or meditation in the morning, mobility, surely, journaling. What I'm more the way I'm thinking about it more at the moment is I have days where I focus on one of them, because I think you bring more weight, and it's about the depth and how jazzed up you are, or how strongly you feel an emotion. And what I was realizing, and if I do a little bit every single day, you don't get the same. It can be like if you journal 3 things that you're grateful for every day, afterwards, like, okay, what am I grateful for today? You know what I mean? But if I have gratitude day and then I just go for it, it's just like gratitude all day today, then I feel like, wow, I really do feel like a lot of gratitude for this. You know what I mean? So like I'm looking for a depth or a bigger experience. But again, I think that's offset because I'm more confident in my goals. Make sense? So sometimes you can take little baby steps and get into the habit of doing things. And I'm more into, at the moment, really getting after things and experiencing the depth of things, like really, really powerful, viscerally experiencing a visualization or manifestation, because that's what really moves the needle. And again, for your consistency, I know we're tying a whole lot of things together. Is like on Monday mobility is really, really consistent because we want the depth of experience. We don't need to know a lot of things. We need to know what we do know really well. And that gives you the confidence. And then from the confidence, you can really get after it. And then I think people start to move the needle.
And one more thing,
Yeah.
well, the Monday mobility, like there is consistency.
Yeah.
But it isn't like, oh my God, Lawrence didn't do it in the right order that it happens. And so you're actually, what I have found is you're giving us permission to like feel into like what's working for that day, this mobility. This is just Monday, right?
Yeah,
so what happens the other 6 days? Like you're not doing anything or like, but you practice and you find the flow. Like I was so resistant to cat cows for so long. You know, I mean, I'm a yogi. Like I would skip it as much as possible. I know.
What?
But now it's like I would
get cast out.
For the past 2 years, I've been doing it like every day.
Yeah.
Like and maybe at the evening, I do it every day because I have found in my experience, like it's opening up so much for me.
Yeah.
So what I love is like you give the direction and the why, because for the intellect you need to provide the why, but you also give the freedom to make it your own. Make this your own practice.
Yeah.
How do you feel today?
Yeah.
Like dive into that and see where it takes you. So to your point of the gratitude practice, like see where it is today and then revisit it back when you come around in 10 days or something for the next practice. But I wanted to touch upon the external circumstances as well that pull us out of our routine. So, I'll speak to myself coming back from this running opportunity and I trust myself. I'm on the path.
Yeah.
But as soon as I get on social media and I see Morgan Pearson running fast in zone 2, the mind gets pulled into that right away when I know the timeline in my heart is whatever the timeline is. Yeah. But just like that, Lawrence, I'm distracted and I'm in the lack. I should be further along. Yeah.
I mean, that's social media is really... Yeah, I mean, there is some benefit to it. I use it, but it can be pretty damaging and harmful. And again, it's like you get goal setting is really important because like you shouldn't be comparing yourself to Morgan. Morgan's an extraordinary. Some. I mean, I don't know. There's like just genetics, right? I have fair skin and blue eyes, so that brings with it certain things, and then I can't choose my genes and my parents, and that's just how I'm born, and I can never change it. And I think endurance is highly trainable. There's epigenetics, you can switch on latent genes. We're in that business, we can really, really improve. I'm need to read into more about this notion. We used to talk about responders and non-responders. Apparently, the research is showing that everyone responds. And I believe you can shape and create your reality to a way bigger event. Our potential is way bigger than we believe it. But 100%, it's not helpful to compare yourself to others. We can learn from others' mistakes. We can observe and sort of sort their process out. But I promise you, like Morgan is not looking out and wondering what anyone else is doing. Morgan is focusing on Morgan things, and we really do need to figure it out and to focus on us, and if we hurry slowly, it's amazing how quickly we can respond. And the one thing about endurance, just to loop this back to sort of manifestation, is you have to be calm, and that's parasympathetic. And the way we move and the way we're teaching movement is to ingrain a way bigger sense of parasympathetic movement with your run, swim, and bike, and certainly endurance, so that because then you are calm, and then you'll find your swim, run, and bike starts to become meditative or mindful, or however you want to place it. But when we're calm, we tend to have better gut instinct. But when we're anxious and when we're pulled out of our process and when we're hurried, then we tend to make bad decisions and we get attracted to the wrong things. So again, sort of once you start on the path, the way appears. Like if I walk into a room and say, someone calls my name, I'm going to turn around and look at them. But if you walk into the room, you're overwhelmed. Does it make sense? Well, if I say to you guys, there's a lot of brown in this room, right? But like, name all the brown objects. Like, oh my, you don't know. But if you look around, let's say red. If you look around and you sort of, I'm saying, look for all the red things, then you look at me and say, what's red in this room? Then because it's in your awareness, it comes to you. Does it make sense? So a lot of goal setting and manifestation is like being calm. Then suddenly we notice, okay, that's the right thing for me. And it comes to me, rather than you're looking and searching and wondering what you should be doing. And, social media is gratification hit. It's the opposite of dopamine. It's the opposite of purpose and mindfulness, but it is really powerful. Like when you really do have some sense of true north and you're calm, the solutions will come to you, the right things to add. I mean, I work with Taylor Nibb quite a bit, and we don't look outside. We don't care what anyone else is doing. She really doesn't. Like, there's no interest in so-and-so and what's doing. Because if you really focus on your purpose, then suddenly if you need something, it'll show up in your life. You know what I mean? So we're not saying we're not growing or evolving or being complacent, but it's you magnificently focus on what you're doing, and then you start to see, oh, well, we need to add that. And the thing shows up. It's just amazing how serendipitous that starts to work. And then you start to get the serendipity, and you start to say, oh, the right thing shows up at the right time. Yeah,
but I think we're creating that.
Yeah.
I think that we're creative beings at our essence, right?
Yeah.
And so we're always creating. And I think that we overlook that. You had touched upon how like we're capable of so much more. We're so much more powerful than we were ever led to believe.
Yeah.
We're creating in every moment, right? We're vibrational beings living in this vibrational universe. So if I want to win the race to take that Nancy lady down, right? Like that's negative. That's not nice.
No.
That's my vibration.
Yeah.
But if I feel in my heart, like I'm having visions and I'm feeling that like, oh my gosh, that thrill of winning a race and it's for me and whatever, that is another vibration to give out. And I think what it really boils down to is like self-awareness. Like, if we don't have awareness, like BJ gets on social media, we're going to pick on you now, BJ. We know that you're very jealous of Morgan.
We know.
We know.
You don't like cat cows.
I know. I just learned that as well. And I didn't know this whole thing with Morgan Pearson, but now I do. But his self-awareness is like, ooh, I'm in it.
Yeah.
Like my ego, my lower self is like wants to be him and feels bad about being me.
Yeah.
But if we don't have that self-awareness and we're not aware of when, this titration between like intuitive self or higher self or lower self or ego, we can really get sucked into that stuff, and it can be terrible for our health. Like, because our cell, I believe, I think you believe this too, but you can tell me if you don't, that our cells are always listening to what we're thinking, right? And I don't know where I heard this before, but I love it. It's like in every moment, we're declaring who we are.
Yeah.
In every moment, how we move through the world, it's like we're saying like, okay, universe, I'm declaring that I am this right now. And like attracts like. And I mean, I love what you say about neuroscience, like it's catching up.
Yeah.
But I prefer just like, I want to go to those ancient teachings. Like I just want to go to the source. Yeah. And I love the neuroscience because that helps me sell what I'm selling over here.
Well, I love it that we were cool and front runners, and now like, modern science is catching up.
Yeah. And,
but again, to be inclusive, because some people, they don't really they don't at this moment relate to maybe a little bit more woo, right?
Yeah.
But oxytocin is a high performance drug, and that's love and trust. And I'll tell you, like, really interesting, like chronic fatigue athletes and people with your mitochondria will switch on or shut down so fast it'll make your head spin. So you'll find, like, and I spoke about this on Rongan's podcast, and I want to say what I didn't say then. It cuts both ways. So let's say an athlete's not thriving with a coach. They don't like the environment. They've lost trust. They for whatever reason, okay. And females tend to be more responsive to this, but it's certainly not just a female thing, right? So they can be languishing in the pool. You can be having blood tests because you think you're anemic, or there's something wrong with you because you're not making your sets, reps. You can't hit your watts. You can't run your run paces. You can leave that coach and go to a more positive environment or have a sense of liberation or freedom. And in 24 hours, you can do your lifetime best watts. It's not some, maybe it makes a difference. It is the difference. It's Flora Duffy flies in her friend before big events because she lights her up and makes her laugh. That's how much she trusts in oxytocin and as a high performance. It's like literally a key integral part of how she won the gold medal and in Tokyo. Like, if you're not doing it, you're not doing it right. There's not woo. You can, once you approach this with a sense of curiosity, it's interesting. And then get back to your point about, the point I'm trying to make is, I can't tell you how many people swing the rope backwards, which kind of lights up your cerebellum in a different way. Okay, so there's a neurological reason why, but people become aware, self-aware, and they suddenly realize, oh, that's not serving me. Oh, I have an internal voice, and it's very negative. But before they were sleeping or not self-aware. So now it's extraordinary that movement can create self-awareness, and movement can be the vehicle to get you on the right path and then to reframe your whole life. I mean, he's a fantastic guy. Chris Evans, he's hosts a morning show on Virgin Radio in the UK, and basically running was a path to sobriety and totally changed his life, and now he has his life partner and they live their best life. It's extraordinary. And it's not necessarily running, it's movement. But it was a path that opened doors that led to a better life that became a self-fulfilling prophecy in a journey. So like back to the woo, what's Rumi say? When you start on the path, the way appears. So these are just, it's not for me, like you're jazzed up about the ancient knowledge. Someone else is jazzed up about this. It doesn't matter what jazzes you up about it, but just get involved and do it in a safe way. And then you can really immerse yourself because it's cool, it's fun, it's empowering. It doesn't have to be hard. It's just amazing, but you have to have that sense of play and curiosity and excitement and lightness, not don't have enough, I'm not good enough, comparing yourself to others, lack mindset.
You have to have enjoyment. If you don't have enjoyment, what are we doing? I know some days are harder to get out of bed than others, maybe it's just really cozy in there, but like go out and do what we say it ad nauseum, find what you love and do more of it. And it doesn't matter what it is that you love, and it doesn't have to be your career. It could just be, reading that book at night to your kids or going out for that morning walk with the dog, but do what you love and do a lot of it, because again, that's going to put you in that vibrational arena of attracting more things that you love in your life. And it doesn't mean that having self-awareness is going to take challenges away, but boy, does it mean that you have like your feet on the ground when you're moving through it. And this ungroundedness, that can be around manifestation. All you need to do is really look at the science around it. When we're talking about visualization, we're just sending neurons down a pathway, right? Subconscious doesn't know. When I'm visualizing the marathon and how that's going to feel and bring in that feeling part of it, which is so important. I love that you touched upon that. When I show up to the starting line, subconscious is like already trained, like, oh yeah, we've done this. Yeah. We did this for the last 6 months for 5 minutes every other day. Yeah. It's when I work with athletes, especially professional athletes, I ask them if they're visualizing. A lot of them are not, or they're doing it very intellectually. So kind of soften them into that feeling. But I always say, like, this is it. Like, this is going to be the thing that moves the needle. Like, this is massive, and you're taking the time and the thoughtfulness to do it. That is also bringing more into the whole journey of enjoying what they're doing. Yeah, totally. I mean, there's so many touch points on there. I worked with a professional athlete, and she trained for 2 Ironmans, and I do not suggest you do this preparation.
But she trained for, this is not a recommendation, this is an observation, right? So she trained for 2 Ironmans and she was relatively unfit when she started preparing for them, for 5 or 6 weeks, and she podiumed both times. Okay, and then I was kind of a caretaker coach looking after her and trying to find a coach for her that would mesh. And then anyway, she went for the coach, and then she did this like 6-month preparation. Okay, no stone left unturned, and I don't think she did as well as previous other 2. And the coach was like, "What the hell?" And I said, "Yeah, but this person's a storyteller." And I told her the story of the Ironman. I told exactly what she'd be feeling at what stage. And she had such a clear picture of what was going to happen on race day. It was just a story for her, and it just unfolded. And I said, like, that's really, really powerful. I helped her basically with visualization. I walked her through the entire Ironman before, and she was such a storyteller individual. She just told that story. And it's really, I'm intrigued by a lot of things, but one of them is quantum biology. Which is really, really interesting and fascinating. I don't know what to do with it just of yet, but, we are definitely shaping our reality around us all the time. And there's only 2 ways to live life. You are either happening to the universe, or the universe is happening to you. And the quickest way to happen to the universe, because we all go through bad patches, or we can be in immense suffering. We've got the Palisades fires on at the moment. It's devastating. So life is not... If your life has never been hard, just keep living. It's going to come, that's a certainty, but you can find joy or purpose now, and so if you're going through a rough patch, it's hard. I know that, but once you figure out how to be of service to others, things start to snowball. And a lot of what people are manifesting as wealth or success, that will come if you really focus on your purpose. Whereas if you focus on superficial or tangible or assets, it pulls you out of your purpose, and you can be... the norm is really wealthy people are unhappy, not the other way around. It's very rarely. And most wealthy people that love what they do are accidentally wealthy and not really that worried about the wealth. So anyway,
we were just listening. I think you sent it to me, BJ, on social media. This with Oprah Winfrey and Eckhart Tolle, and he talks about how he was diagnosed with cancer, and that's not really the point in the story. The point is he talked about how when he received that diagnosis, this like overwhelming air of presence like came forward in his life, and through the surgery, and he would sit and visualize his cells and all of that. And of course he had the surgery, and then, everything was fine after it was like completely gone. But he talked about like when you practice presence, when you are aware, when you have self-awareness, like in those challenging times that you just promised everyone they're going to have. And I second that. Absolutely. They're going to have those. Life's going to bring you to your knees more than once. But when you practice it, it shows up in these challenging times where it's without effort, you feel very anchored. I've experienced this recently in my own life with a parent that's getting ready to transition, and just kind of standing there very calm, very present, and watching what almost seemed like a Monday night movie with the family going on around me, and realizing like, wow, I'm in an effortless moment right now in the middle of something that's extremely intense and emotional. So I think that we can't speak enough about the importance of just this awareness, and it's as simple as, there's so many ways we can talk about it, but just being aware of what you're doing while you're doing it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, we got to just do, we can get caught in a world where we're so busy trying to rationalize this stuff or make something that you visualize happen. You just get out there and do things. But I think setting the stage to safely do is a really good idea, because there's so many people that are almost like seeking spirituality and then just seem to get more and more lost, or do less and less. And we don't want that. You got to get out and do stuff, right? Make stuff happen. But yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think also some people, like if you're struggling with a cue that made a worked a treat just the other day was, I said to someone, like, we were going to do some movement work and breathing work, and they were like really hyped up and bouncy and energetic and bouncing around the room. And I said, okay, look, in this in this state, we're not really going to have the most productive session. You need to get into book mode. And they said, well, what does book mode mean? So I said, look, you love books. You assimilate knowledge at an extraordinary rate. Okay, so when you're reading a book and you're assimilating knowledge, you're kind of parasympathetic, or you calm when you're in the right mental space, right? She says, yeah, totally. So I said, okay, get into book mode, because now we're learning. Okay? And then that was the shift. And everyone has a happy place. Everyone has a sphere of competence when they're really, really competent. You know, like what you were describing, that surreal, almost out-of-body calm, I used to experience in life-saving all the time. I'm competent. I'm in my space. The time would slow down. I'd feel the water, the sun. You could smell the sunscreen coming off the water. I'd be in this surreal, calm space. The person drowning is having the very opposite experience, because they're not competent in that space, and they want to drown you. You know, they're standing on their siblings' heads. They you know, like they are, and it really distills out, like, that's what manifestation, or what this is about, is like, when I can make good decisions. Here's a wave. We're going to hold your breath, duck you under. We're going to stay underneath the wave until it's passed. The drowning person, there's no such awareness. Makes sense? So I think for most people, we all have a place of competence, or a happy place, and there's really, we can just touch on a few. Like, so one is, if you're an artist, it might be painting, and like, oh, that's my calm place. Yeah, well, try and bring that to your run. You know, and if you're a musician, what music? You know, and one of the things is playing a song on repeat. Playing on a song on repeat, that repetition, the same thing again and again, you can really pull you back to your happy place. Or remember a song from a happier time. And then you listen to that and you get all the feels, right? So it's not difficult. It's just, we just don't have agency. I mean, I was talking to a guy on another podcast. I was cheating on you. And
oh, man.
And, you know, and I was saying, is like, you know, they just, you study anatomy and physiology, and you look at the body from one way, and it's just like, yeah, the muscle's weak, you need to strengthen it. And I'm like, yeah, but how does that make you feel? Because, you know what I mean? Like, motion and emotion. And like, it's just, they just left out like 90% of the textbook that's supposed to be written, you know? So anyway, for those of you out there and listening, going like, wait, what? You know, like, yeah, find your happy place and use that as your center of calm. And you start to realize it's just a game. It's a game of, as you create more competence in one sphere, you'll tend to do it in a calm, relaxed way. And you read the book now, and the insights come later. You read a book now about something, and it's remarkable how many times you'll find serendipitous knowledge comes to you. If you're an artist, it's the same. If you're a musician, it's the same. If you're in movement, it's the same. But I feel really in a lot of endurance running, maybe in triathlon, people are running away from their problems. You're training to exhaustion to create a sense of numbness, to create a sense of comfort. And comfort's not your friend. You know what I mean? So, and that's also another thing, is like, try and do a hard thing in the morning. You know, it's the act of getting out of bed when you don't want to get out of bed can set the tone for your day so powerfully, but that's dopamine response. You do the hard work now, the gratification shows up later. And it's just...
But there's instant gratification in staying in bed and hitting snooze.
Yeah.
Because it's practice, because it's in the subconscious. It's what you practice over and over again. So I agree 1,000%. Like, you need the challenges to grow.
Yeah.
You shouldn't shy away from the challenges, but we selectively use our skills in certain things. Like, if I have to get up and go for a swim, I'm okay. But if I have to get up and, you know, go walk the dog or something, like, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. So we selectively use our willpower.
Yeah.
So how does someone... go ahead.
No, carry on.
Well, how does, like, that moment, because it's a moment we see so often, the morning alarm goes off, you know what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get up and get out, but you continually go down the same path again and again and again, not moving towards what you want to achieve.
Yeah, I would say the best way to sort that out is to work on your North Star, your big goal, or your purpose in life. Your purpose, you should get out of bed and say, yeah, I'm going after it.
They don't know their purpose.
Yeah, but then, well, that's your job. Your first job is then to find your purpose. You know, so like, what's my goal? I'm going to need to find my purpose. How do I find my purpose? Okay. Well, I visualize. Well, we're not using visualization because that's exclusive to someone that's like, let's say, you know, based on smell or Joe Malone, there was I sat in the airplane and listened to the podcast, Joe Malone's Fragrance, right? She literally, her whole world is viewed through the lens of her nose. So she cooks perfume by smell. She says, oh, now when that smells like that, then that's turning. And then the chemist came around and said, oh, they could understand the physics of what she's doing, but she cooks by smell, not visual. She, like her whole world revolves around smells. She'll describe the smell of the beach, the smell of this, or when I had that. So some people, that's why I say I don't think we should use visualization, because Joe Malone's running a whole universe on smellization, you know what I mean, or tactile. And so that's why let's just call it manifestation, because then it involves what's personal to you, But yeah, if you don't know your purpose in life, that's a real problem. And that's the first step. So your major goal is find your purpose, and then get excited about that. Like, yeah, you're going to find your purpose. What better thing in life is there to do? And then you should be able to bounce out of bed saying, I'm going to find my purpose. And how do we do that? You do the right things and your purpose will come to you. One day you'll realize I'm extraordinarily good at this. Or you'll finally listen to someone that said, you know what, you're much better at this than you think you are. And, the people that light you up and see more in you than you see in yourself, listen to them. And they'll tell you your purpose. And we got one friend, and we tell her every day, your purpose is to hold ceremony for other people. It's your gift, it's your calling. No one that knows you is in any doubt that that's your purpose. She doesn't want to take it on board, but that, you know what I mean? But everyone knows her purpose.
Yeah, I mean, taking on your purpose can be it's a blessing and a burden. Yeah. And I would say the majority of people that I've worked with over the years, when I ask them, what do they love? What do they like? What do they feel purposeful? They don't know. Yeah. And so it's if you're listening to this and you're just like, I don't know, it's okay. And I want to bring up two things. One is, I don't know if you've heard of the book, what is it called? The Art of Slowing Down, or The Wisdom of Slowing Down by Eknath Easwaran. And he talks about, I think in the preface to the book, or the intro of the book, that in the 1950s, there was a group of doctors who coined this disease that was called hurried disease, and that they predicted that it would take the lives of many, right? Yeah. So if you feel like you don't know what your purpose is, it's okay. Like, we live in this hurried disease society. And then the other thing is something we were talking to our meditation teacher about earlier this fall, when we were seeing like Christmas stuff before Halloween, and we're like, what is happening? It's getting like it's going to be like in June. And he said we're rushing our happiness because we're not self-aware, we're not present, we're not doing what we love, we're going through the motions, and so we're just dying for happiness. Yeah. And what we do is we start decorating the tree in September because we're dying for joy. We are craving happiness. And so we're rushing it, and then we all fall off a cliff, after Christmas, because then it's all over. Yeah. And so this is the environment kind of that we're up against. But I do want to assure everybody who's listening to this that there is a vast majority of people who are like, enough is enough. I'm going to find my purpose, or I know what my purpose is. And like, just go over to that road. It's going to feel like you're going against the grain, but if you feel like you're going against the grain, that's where you should go. Yeah. Well,
you'll get sick, and properly sick, if you don't express your authentic self. So it's like, the stakes are high. You know what I mean? Like, you can sugarcoat it enough. And I'm saying this with gentle and ease and compassion, and someone that, I've done it all, right? So I understand. But, if you don't have joy in your life, it's because you're not living a life that's of service to others. It's just hardwired into your DNA. You have to be of service to others, and you have to just give. And the more you give, the more you will get back. So, you don't need to. We've been programmed, credit cards. Buy the holiday you don't deserve with money you don't have, because you're worth it. You know what I mean? It's like
I totally grew up in that house. I grew up in that house.
It's like, okay, well, it's pretty hard to, And social media is appalling. We're sitting here like it's almost serendipitously how beautiful and fortunate and blessed we are. This is some of the most expensive real estate in the world. It's just extraordinary. We're living this, it's just absolutely incredible. But it's not, that can pull people out of the process and say, oh, you privileged people and you don't understand my lot, But the way to get out of where you are is definitely you have to be of service to others. And you can go through life, like, let's say, I don't know, it doesn't matter what your job is, my personal people that I is bureaucrats, like, or paperwork, or like the DMV, you know what I mean, or applying for visas, like that's not my happy space, man. And if I've ever had conflict with people, it's probably in those sort of environments, right? But I remember watching once this lady, and I mean, I was upset. I was out of my comfort zone. She's trying to tell me it's just a form, fill it in. And I said, I don't understand this question. What does it mean? If I get it wrong, this is not my area. I'm the drowning person in this situation. I can just tell you that much, okay? So anyway, I remember she took this file and neatly put it together, and she put it in the filing cabinet, and she closed the filing cabinet, and this look of calm and joy and happiness came over her body because she'd filed the thing in its place. And I said, you really like things in their place and then filed away. She says, there's nothing that makes me happier because that's done its purpose, and like, there we go. You can be a bureaucrat and you can have joy and purpose. And then the second then she turned around, because now I acknowledged her, seen her purpose in what she did. And I mean, like, there's nothing she wouldn't do with me, and like totally helped me quickly. And then off we went, And so anyway, I think, yeah, we can find our purpose in anything that we do. But are you doing it for money? Are you doing it for validation? Are you doing it for nice things? Are you doing it to be of service to your fellow man? And once you reframe that, you'll find like the doors start opening very, very rapidly for you.
I agree with that. I want to switch gears a little bit because I discovered something several years ago when I was dealing with some chronic, like, plantar fascia stuff. I was never diagnosed, whatever, in my foot. And I have a dog, Clark, and we would go out back on the trails and we would walk, and he's a golden retriever, so he's getting into stuff, he's eating trash, and I would turn around because I had him off leash, and I would turn around and I started walking backwards so I could keep my eye on him. Yeah. And what I found after a pretty short period of time is that my foot was feeling better.
Yeah.
And then now this has come to the forefront in your work, is this backwards walking. So what happened in me just trying to keep my dog out of eating, dirty diapers on the side of the trail, to healing my foot just from walking backwards? It was just like, I don't know, maybe 15, 20, sometimes a minute at a time.
Yeah.
Over time. What is that doing for us as we walk backwards?
When you walk backwards, like, one of the most powerful things that's going on is your heel finds the ground, your calcaneus, and you also learn to stack your bones. So if you just walk backwards, you'll find you trust your bones and you stack your bones a lot more than you might think. So muscles almost get out of the way. You move with a sense of ease. And so a lot of times we get back to the sort of, English is a very descriptive word when it comes to emotions and motion. So if you get ahead of yourself, your head typically goes forward, okay? And you can load your forefoot up, and you can actually create a lot of tension in your feet. And walking backwards is how we get that tension out. And so just learning your foot needs to be relaxed and adaptive to be healthy. And you probably find you have too much tension in your foot. When we walk forward, we often walk in a hurried pattern. We want to get to where we're going. We're not present in the moment. But walking backwards, you start to get way more grounded, and your heel hits the ground and your foot relaxes, and you stack your bones, and you take a lot of tension out of your feet and your calf. And that's probably the quickest way to make your plantar fascia feel better. I think, one of the cues, if you want a cue that really, really works, if you want to move well or move with a sense of ease and not tension, is think bones, not muscles. I think, especially in the US, there's a high value placed on muscle strength and muscle activity. I think our role models tend to be beefy people that are ripped and cut and shredded. But we really do want to move with a sense of ease and fluidity and grace, because it's kind of in our joints. And, I want to move well for a long period of time. We were talking earlier about being able to get off the floor. There'll come a day when you can't get off the floor, and then, that's not great. So, if you want to move with ease and fluidity, think moving your bones, not your muscles, and you probably find that your muscles let go and you move with a lot less tension. It's much kinder to to joints. But walking backwards is one of the best ways to experience bones, not muscles. And you're almost using your muscles in a reverse pattern, and they start to let go and open up.
But the same way you walk backwards is the same way you run, because your belly button's towards the front leg. So it all loops back to assisting. Yeah. What most people want to do is run better.
Yeah. So if you're in performance, you want to run better. A lot of times we have deep tendon reflexes. So your painful withdrawal response, if you step on Lego and your foot jumps up and pulls off the floor, if you step on a hot coal, it's called a painful withdrawal response. That's a similar neural pathway, or possibly the same neural pathway as your crossed extensor reflex. So if I whack your knee with a hammer, then your leg jumps. So if you contract a tendon, you get a reflex contraction. And that's pretty much what we run on, reflex. So we talk about belly button towards lead leg. If your flexors, the muscles that pull your foot off the ground, are more dominant than your extensors, which is your glute max, which is the muscle that extends you forward, I know it's weird, but you'll almost run in reverse. So you'll get caught behind your hips and your belly button. So you want to try this. And find a video on YouTube on how to walk backwards, because we want to make sure that your belly button tracks towards your front leg, because that's more extension-based gait. And if you're a very strong in flexion, what will happen is your belly button will track to the opposite leg. Mm-hmm. So we're teaching you basically the pattern of relaxed nervous system walking. And that's the big deal. That's really why we do backwards walking. And that's why I say, once you start walking in a manner that calms your nervous system down, that's when people become self-aware. That's when people become calm. And if you can do that, then you don't have to, you can do whatever you want, but suddenly walking becomes a form of meditation because you're calm. But if you're hurried and flexion-based, and it's your sympathetic nervous system in your state of hurry or fight or flight or freeze or fawn, now that's not really where manifestation and visualization happens, and when we think clearly and we're patient. So that's really important. That's one of the same, I'm really working on. I know that if you walk backwards and you start to change the way you gait, I know what'll happen is that you'll start to become self-aware, and your potential in the world for showing up and getting to where you want to go is going to magnificently improve. So what I'm really, really focused on is then let's get your goals aligned, because that's how we're going to deal with the awesome that's coming your way. You know what I mean? We don't really want to empower people and then they got no strategy, or they don't really know what's going on.
Now what?
Yeah. I'm showing up in the world with awesome, but I have no idea what's going on. So, yeah.
One of the things you had shared with me a while back on this theme is if you do these things, these simple things, it's going to unlock the potential that you already have, this fitness you already have. You don't need to go out and, if you're doing 10 800, you don't need to go do 20 800 repeats. Stay consistent. And this stuff is going to naturally unlock the freedom in your natural state already. There's untapped potential in athletes already as you are, just by finding that calm. And ease.
Yeah, well, Jan Frodeno is a really, really good example of this. So Jan Frodeno started moving. So Jan, when he trained, liked to beat himself up and feel exhausted afterwards, because then he associated that with, I've done enough work. And he started moving so efficiently that, I can't remember what the session was. He did 8x1K or 6x1K and then some 400s afterwards. And he says, I feel like I haven't run. I'm not sore. I'm not beat up. And so he wanted to start adding. And I said, dude, you need to understand it's the same dose of training. You're so efficient now, it's just not hurting your body. And he says, well, this is ridiculous because I need to feel beat up. Otherwise, I don't feel like I worked hard enough. I can't walk away from the track session feeling not beat up. You're robbing me of, this is not how this works. And he went through a period where he had to totally readjust his RPE and his sense of working and how hard he worked, because he almost became more talented. And one of the, I'm very fortunate that I work in this space, and I'm not saying this with sort of a sense of disregard or not gratitude, but with a lot of the athletes that I work with, we read the Marion Wilson poem, it's not our darkness, it's our light, because people feel the hardest thing for most athletes is to realize they're more talented and they don't have to work as hard for the results that they're going to get. And that's probably the hardest thing. I've said it over and over and over again. I said it first when I started working with Flora Duffy. I said the most difficult thing that's going to happen is that you're going to stop striving and stop working so hard, and you're going to get better results. And for someone that left no stone left unturned, I mean, she was so dedicated and professional for decades. The hardest thing for her was to accept that she's now more talented and that she actually doesn't have to work as hard, and she'll get even more results. And a lot of people, especially in the US, Calvinistic, like if you didn't work really hard for it, you don't deserve it. And suddenly, things can come to you pretty easily. Or it's not easy because you're doing the harder work. We talk like this with Taylor Knibb all the time. I said, like, if you got to understand that she does the mental and emotional work that no one really wants to do. And then winning can suddenly almost come quite easily to her, and she can feel guilty about it. I said, no, don't, because you did the hard work that no one actually wants to do, which is the change, the mental emotion, the self-reflection. You know what I mean? But physically, once you get that in time, you can become so talented, or you can improve so quickly that most people can't actually deal with that.
It's a heavy weight. It's like the power, the power, like superpower, with great responsibility. So you mentioned at the beginning of this 3 things that you're really passionate about, and everybody's like holding on for like it's 50 minutes now. What are the 3 things?
The Holy Trinity.
Yeah, Holy Trinity, that you are passionate about right now.
No, I'm not passionate about. Okay. So the Holy Trinity is. I'm pumped and I'm moving on. Like, we have a formula. It works. You just got to do them and get out the way. And that's basically swinging a flow rope. And I've got YouTube videos explaining exactly how and why to do it, because it teaches you the shape and timing of running, and it teaches you head over foot and extension-based running. Okay, so it provides the framework for that. Some people are very, very anteriorly chain dominant or flexion dominant, and they literally can't swing the rope backwards in a figure of 8 pattern. And if you can't do that, that's a deep neural pathway that you need to open and unlock. Again, you need to be balanced somewhere between the two. So that's what flow rope does. It teaches you the timing and the shape and the rhythm of running. So that when you run, you go, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't have to cue you. We don't have to tell you what to do. My big theme for this year is mantras, not cues. I don't tell you how to run. I want you to think about and reinforce your purpose while you're running, so that you can show up and express your best self when you run, not tell you what's wrong with your running, right? So flow rope's number 1. The second part of that is the backward walking, because we can powerfully create that sense of ease, connection in your gait. Parasympathetic activates. Most people start walking backwards to calm themselves at night. It helps them sleep. They can find quite a powerful sense of parasympathetic or calmness walking backwards. Especially if you're very anterior chain, you hurried, you walk fast, you've walked to burn calories, you stride out, you walk to get your heart rate up, any of those, you start walking backwards, you go, oh, wow, that's pretty calm. So a lot of athletes will walk backwards in the evenings after their meal to help with digestion, because it's rest and digest. Your parasympathetic nervous system comes up, you're mobilizing things, and they sleep better. So that's the second part. And then the third part is resisted walking. And resisted walking is basically walking a tire. You pull a tire with, we prefer actually if you work on a treadmill, because you can put a gradient on there and you can walk with theracords behind you. But why we walk with resistance is if you just walked forward really well, okay, you wouldn't necessarily strengthen your glute max. Walking is not the best exercise to strengthen your glute max. But if you walk with resistance, your glute max strengthens. And so basically you learn gait, okay, with a strong glute max slowly, because the quickest way to learn something is to do it slowly, not fast. If you do something fast, you'll just repeat this. Like, you can't change your handwriting by writing at the normal speed. You have to slow things right down, right? So we walk slowly because that teaches you quicker, and we strengthen your glute max. And then once you have a strong glute max and you know what calm is, and you figured out how to really use your hips, when you go for a run, it's inevitable. You go like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing with my hips. And the glute max is the biggest muscle in your body. And when your gait flows from glute max down, the kinetic chain, it's your parasympathetic nervous system comes along with for the ride. If you do it the other way around, if you hit the ground with a tight foot and you're sweeping back with your hamstring, so if your calf or hamstring or your plantar fascia contract kind of before your glute max, it's almost the wrong way around. And you'll find it I think what it does is it ties into your flexion response or your flexion withdrawal, or all the deep tendon reflexes is startle reflex, Moro reflex, writing reflex, deep painful reflex. And they're all flexion. And once those deep neural pathways are dominant in your pattern, you're reactive. But when your glute max extends first, then all those reflexes tend to calm down, and then you tend to move through the world in a creative fashion with way more parasympathetic ease. So that's why you do those three things. And it really, really works. Your job is just to get your head and what you think you know out of the way and just do it and experience. And then get your goals aligned because the awesome's coming.
Yeah, get what you think you know out of the way. That's such a high level of intelligence, is like knowing that maybe you don't know. I think the Holy Trinity is sitting at this table right now, too. We can talk all day. Thank you, Lawrence. It was so awesome to see you, and so awesome to have you on the podcast. And PJ is reaching for the mic, so I'm going to say thank you and goodbye.
Yeah, I just want to, I've gotten so much out of your online program, so...
I mean, you do cat-cows now.
I do cat-cows now. You've got me to do cat-cows.
So really importantly, we talk about the one other sidekick of the Holy Trinity, okay? The Batman to the Robin is breathing. And it's really, really interesting is a lot of people can breathe well, seated or on their back. And as soon as you go into cat-cow, their breathing will flip into antagonistic breathing. Especially, I don't know why, in triathletes, it seems to be quite high. So one of the reasons when you do cat-cow is we sync it with breathing, so we're just going to end up on that note. So as you arch your back and your head comes up, which is cow, I think, you better breathe in. And when you round, you need to breathe out. Okay, and for many, many, many of you, you will have that flipped in reverse. And that's one of the gifts of cat-cow is you can sort out your prone breathing pattern. And it's remarkable in triathletes how many times that's flipped out. And then are we talking in elites, not like the best ever? Their breathing patterns flipped in prone, which means your breathing patterns flipped on your bike and your swim. Anyway, so carry on, BJ.
I'm glad you mentioned that because that isn't important. I mean,
no, it's really important. It's not sort of important.
It's
really
very important.
Yeah.
Breath is our gateway to calm. I feel. Absolutely. I believe that. So online program, lawrencevandlingen.com. Get over there.
Yeah.
All the things. Monday mobility.
Wednesday mastery, not medals. Thursday breathing. Friday we do strength, but I'm scared to advertise that too much because I travel and sometimes I want to play hooky on Friday.
But all the sessions. And
there's a run workshop on there, and the goal setting.
Fridays are hit or miss.
The goal setting will be on there. Anyone from the podcast that wants access to the goal setting newsletter, the mantra, whatever, I'll finish it up in a couple of days. We can send it out to you guys.
Cool.
You got a mailing list, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Cool. Thank you, Lawrence, so much.
Let's go. Let's make the world a better place. Thank you so much. And thanks for what you do. And you guys walk the hard path, and it's the right path. And like I say, people catch up to you. So you're ahead of
the curve. We've heard.
You're ahead of the curve, But neuroscience is catching up.
Thank God. No, and I think more and more people are looking for holistic performance.
Yeah.
They're looking for more of a bigger picture that's going to bring them health and wellness. Like we're living longer than we ever have, and we're living in the worst health that we've ever lived in. Yeah. And so, we're about longevity, but we're about longevity with wellness, being able to get up off the floor. In 20, 30 years. So it's really important. And thank you. You're such a big supporter, and you always have good words of wisdom for us and fuel for us to continue. It hasn't been an easy path. I know yours hasn't either.
No.
But people are catching up.
Yeah.
They're catching up.
Yeah. They are. And someone was saying to me, my social media's kind of done pretty well lately, where did you come from? And I'm like, and I've been in the US and I haven't really changed what I'm saying for 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not overnight anything.
No.
And I still meet with a lot of resistance, and it's still tough, But the thing is, you just to your point is like, life's hard, triathlon's kind of hard, like get them congruent so that the one area of your life complements the other area of your life. And, otherwise, I mean, what are you doing? Why are we working so hard when it's antagonistic to everything, And it's just a bit of an awareness. And then it's a bit of change and a bit of unease in the beginning, and then it just gets way better.
Yeah. It's a little bit of unease. Just don't be afraid to look.
No.
It's just you and you at the end of the the day. All
Thank
right.
you.
Signing off. Thanks so much, Lawrence.